All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for being here today. I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
You are a true college success story. When we first talked, I was really, really interested in your success story, how you founded your business, working out of your dorm room. Tell our listeners a little bit about how you got where you are today.
Sure. So when I was in college, what feels like many moons ago now, I had started a direct consumer sports brand with a teammate of mine, and we built that business up and had a good amount of people working for us, and we were selling a lot of product with a lot of great customers: Duke University, Syracuse, UNC, a bunch of colleges, and a bunch of other sports teams. And then we dropped out of college to continue building that business. Did that for a few years, and then started Direct with a couple co-founders. And Direct is a conversational AI platform that helps businesses that produce a lot of content train an AI on all of their content and data so that they can have one-to-one personalized conversations with all their audiences. And so we've been doing that for a couple of years. About 2 years ago, this thing called ChatGPT happened, and the whole world kind of woke up to the possibilities of AI and having conversations with an audience. And so it's been a bit of a wild ride over the last 18, 24 months for us, but we're really excited about it. We've got 100 great brands on the platform, millions of users, and we think we're doing really important work and helping a lot of really important companies along the way. So that's a little bit about what we've done. I'm excited to get into more detail.
That's great. And it's funny, I got hung up on you saying it feels like many moons ago because it wasn't many moons ago for you.
Well, again, in my current moment in life, all my friends are having their first quarter life, third life crisis. And so it's all relative, I think, but I appreciate the sentiment.
That's great. So I was really interested when we first started talking about AIs and chatbots that yours
Yeah.
is a little bit different, and it's actually trained to speak in the brand voice that you're interacting with. Like, how does that work, and why is it important?
Well, I think it's important because, especially as the internet continues to move towards a place where social media algorithms and now these AI search engines really disintermediate brands from their customers or from their audiences, the importance of having a direct relationship with your audience, your student, your customer, whoever it might be, is more important than ever because it's getting harder and harder to reach them, right? If I go to Google and I search for something now and I get their new AI overview, I might get the answer right there. I actually don't have to go to the website from the company or the publisher or the brand. If I'm on social media, I don't actually see who I follow anymore. I see what's recommended to me. We've moved from this sort of social graph to the recommendation graph. And so having a direct relationship with your constituent, your audience, your student, your customer, your users has never been more important. And we believe fundamentally the only way to actually have a relationship with someone that's meaningful is to have conversations with them, right? If you remove yourselves from sort of the digital world and technology and you just think practically as a human, well, there's nobody that you have a meaningful relationship with that you've never actually spoken to or that you talk to. And so, for the first time, because of generative AI and natural language processing, you can have conversations with thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people in a way that's one on one and personalized and really feels authentic and true and not like this kind of cookie cutter experience I think everybody got used to. And so, you
Mhm.
asked what's different. If you were to experience the typical chatbot on a website a couple of years ago, and even today on most websites, it's probably in the bottom right hand corner. It's
Mhm.
probably there for customer service primarily. So it's going to try to help you fix a problem with something you bought, return a package, understand how to get your internet to work or change a flight that you bought, some sort of service based use case, which is all fine. Typically, though, those experiences were really rudimentary, right? There's only a couple questions they know the answers to. You tend to be begging for a live agent really quickly because it's not able to solve your problems. And Direct takes this perspective that if you leverage AI in the right ways and you combine that with the actual content that a publisher, a company, a college might produce, and you give it a personality that is aligned with the brand's personality that already exists today, you can actually engage that user, one, in a way that's delightful for the end user, but two, you can train these systems to be really effective at actually helping them get their answers, find the content they need, move on with their day, or dig deeper if there's something they're trying to engage with you about. And so, at a high level, what we hope we're doing a good job of, and we've got some data to suggest that we are, is making it so that brands can connect much more deeply in a one on one personalized way with their audience and doing that through conversations so that that audience comes back more often, spends more time with them, and has a better experience overall.
Well, I love this idea of AI having some sort of personality in your interactions. Uh, I guess you would have to really start with having a well-defined like brand voice on your site, right? I mean, you have to have done some work to know who you are and what you want your institution to be. Because I'm guessing your AI could be like funny or
Sure.
serious or,
Yeah, it's exactly right. The
right.
better you're much better equipped to get started quickly if you already know how you want your brand to show up. A
Yeah.
lot of brands we'll speak with might not have a really clean one sheeter on exactly what that's supposed to be. Some do, but some don't. The good news is almost everybody's been using social in one way or another for about a decade. And so if you go look at the way a brand is tweeting, right, the way your university or college is tweeting or posting on Instagram or the captions of their TikTok posts, like all of that is your brand voice. Now, maybe that's not, again, incredibly well documented or structured or thoughtful. A lot of times it is, but even if it isn't, you are putting a voice out into the world. And I think if you think you're having success on those channels or even on your website or in your app, well, then you can mimic that same experience. Now, what RAI does is it trains on all of your content that you already have. So it's going
Mm.
to pick up on how you're talking today. How are you posting content online? What is the tone of voice you already have? But then you can go in and you can customize the personality as you see fit. So if you wanted to be sarcastic and funny and cheeky, the way Wendy's might be on social media making fun of McDonald's, well, you can do that. You can say, hey, you're sarcastic. You're going to lightly joke with the user, but you're never going to be too offensive. And you're going to use emojis to let them know you're lighthearted. And it'll really embody those instructions and how it behaves. It's really cool. At the same time, if you were a buttoned up, disciplined, very strict brand for whatever reason, maybe you're Harvard and you just want to feel like elite and premium, you can tell it to behave that way as well. But yeah, the better understanding you have of how you want your voice to resonate with the audience, the better the system's going to do at picking up on that. We have seen very early indications of companies thinking about these AIs as akin to like their mascot, right?
Right.
So the president of a university has to be polished and professional and a really good orator and all these things. The mascot gets to run out at halftime and do backflips and pretend to be mean to the opposing fans and can just do a lot of things, right? Mascots have a little bit of more permission. And so we're starting to see some brands play with this idea on, well, is my AI actually going to have its own name, its own logo, its own identity? And does that give it permission to be a little more free in how it engages with the audience? So it's not necessarily that it's the Harvard chatbot or AI, which it could be, but maybe it's this new character they created, which still has all the info, has all the data, but is allowed to be a little more fun because that's the purpose of it. And that's obvious to the user based on it having its own visual representation in how it manifests itself to the end user. So a couple thoughts there on just like the different ways you can do it, but we certainly think personality is critical because otherwise you don't have anything that differentiates you in a world where anyone can chat with information anywhere. What's going to make your experience stand out? And one part is utility. Do you give them what they need? Are you really good at that? I think you should assume that's like table stakes. And then the differentiator is always, well, what is unique about your brand voice and how you show up in the market?
Now we have a client, it's a consortium of 10 colleges and they're competitors, but they've decided that for certain career education programs, they're going to market holistically because they're not competing with each other on these programs. They're complementing each other and it gives them more money to buy media in the Los Angeles area. And our website we built for them, it does have a chat bot. And
Right.
our number one question, and our chatbot's not, it doesn't have a name. That's now I'm like, huh, we should name it. Like maybe that would, maybe that would help people. But our number one question, our first question is, are you a person?
It's amazing.
And I wonder from your experience working with other brands, is having a personality, is having a name, does that make people more comfortable in interacting or more patient? Or what have you seen from that?
So one, we see more engagement overall. So people just interact with it more often and more deeply. One of the reasons we believe that is without that, it's not obvious to the user if it's a chatbot, if it's a customer service bot, or if it's just customer service. So a lot of experiences across websites, just in general, they all look the same, but sometimes if I'm making this up, AT&T.com, and I type into the little chatbot, it's literally just a person the whole time. Then if I go to Verizon, again, making this up, it's a chatbot, there's no person. So the user always, if they are trying to talk to a person, they're like, the first thing I have to ask is this is a person? I don't have a way of knowing.
Right.
And when you change it to be a character, a persona, a mascot, whatever it might be, well, it's really obvious it's not a person. So it does solve for maybe that initial confusion. I think the maybe more important thing to focus on is if users are asking that question often, it's probably because they've been having a lot of experiences where they aren't able to get the information they're looking for and they need to talk to a human, right? People are asking, are you a human? Because they're used to the AI or the lack of AI in the chatbot not doing a good enough job giving them what they're looking for. And so you get frustrated, you send 4 messages and you're like, please, live agent, human, person, talk to a real person. You're sending all these messages to get in.
I do that. I'm like, real person.
Me too, all the time. And fortunately, in the experiences we power, we don't tend to see that. And there's a tons of reasons why. One of which is the engagement and the types of experiences we're trying to deliver. Part of that is the branding and the way it's integrated into the site. And another part of that is the use case, right? So I think if your use case is customer service and people are trying to return packages, well, that's a reasonable thing to want to talk to a human about, but you should be able to automate that and do a really good job of that with AI. And so I think if you're getting that question too much, you might want to look at, well, how successful are you at fulfilling what users are asking you for? Because if they're looking for a human, it's kind of an indicator that maybe you're not delivering on the promise of this chat experience that's supposed to solve your problems or deepen your engagement, whatever it might be, to the extent that maybe you should be or could be. And that could be an indicator of a moment where maybe it's worth double clicking into just the quality of conversations you're delivering today.
Right. Now, for chatbots with customer service, I feel like a lot of the colleges I work with, that is what their chatbot has become. It's almost like a auxiliary search function. Like
Yeah.
nobody can find anything on search because there's like 40,000 pages on the website that are outdated. So they've decided to put a chatbot on. And now the chatbot just is pulling up the same crap that the search bar is pulling up. Like, how do you solve for that? How do you make it something more than just a search function?
Yeah, that's a great point. So this is something we're seeing a lot of. So Direct powers these conversational AIs, so these assistants or chatbots. And a lot of our customers early in the deployment or the first conversation or two will be like, oh, this could replace site search, the on-site search engine for their website. And we're like, yeah, of course it's going to do a better job of that. It marries the best of what already worked in search, but fills in all the problems with what didn't with really good AI. And that's a great thing about just having a chatbot that really does know and understand all of your content. So just if a user has a question, you can give them the right answer. One of the interesting things that we started to notice is like, well, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a search bar that takes a user to one set of results
Right.
and a chatbot that doesn't have the same result. Like,
Exactly.
why would you have two input boxes on the same site? When is the user supposed to use either one? How are they supposed to know? And if your search experience isn't working well, but your chatbot is, why even have all those questions started to emerge? And so Direct is actually now rolling out functionality so we can intercept searches and handle them with the AI. And so the user can use the same search engine that they're already used to, but they'll get the answers they're actually looking for. And so you're delivering a better experience. It's really a lot of utility there, but it's also a way to onboard them, to activate them into this new conversational experience that we believe is better for users, more delightful, more helpful across a whole spectrum of use cases. And so it's an interesting Venn diagram. Like a lot of what chat bots do broadly is search, but they can do a whole lot more than that. And so we're seeing kind of this uh, moment in time where they're coming together a little bit, and chat is becoming the new way you search, right? I might ask a question, but I want to have a follow-up question. Well, now I'm just in a conversation. Is there a difference? Maybe. When the user's searching, certainly you know they have an intent for a specific answer or piece of content. And so our AI will handle that a little differently than if they're just chatting, where maybe they're trying to discover what they're interested in, or maybe they have a different motivation. But certainly there's a lot of overlap, and broadly in the market, we're seeing that as well. So if you look at ChatGPT, they just rolled out Search GPT, and they've announced plans that will eventually be integrated into the core ChatGPT experience, which I think is evidence of like they can be different things, but they really should be homogenous. And for the end user, I think the experience any business, any college, any publisher wants to deliver is if your audience has a question, you should be able to answer it really quickly, really delightfully. And then that should be an opportunity to build a direct relationship. Maybe you ask them for their phone number or their email address and you say you can follow up with more information about the topic they're searching. Maybe you convert that into a conversation to better understand what's important to them so you can meet their needs better on their next visit. And then a whole host of other things underneath that as well. But we think of them as related concepts that a singular AI that truly understands all of the information about your business should be able to handle really well.
I love this idea of using your chatbot for lead generation because that's something that a lot of our clients are trying to do is to connect, one-on-one, maybe connect an advisor to a potential applicant, but nobody ever writes down anybody's names. Like call the college and we'll come in with secret shoppers and see if anybody ever asked our shopper like their name or their email, their phone number, and it's like 99 out of 100 times it's no. Like, and there was never follow up. Nobody ever called. So I love this idea of having the chat. Like if you're doing searches where it's clear that somebody is trying to become a student, is there a way then to ask them like, hey, would you like to actually talk to an advisor? If you give us your name and number, we can connect you with someone. Have you seen that done before?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
And the data we've seen suggests it's incredibly effective,
Yeah.
right? One of the really like analog, for lack of a better term, analogies here is the sales rep in the beauty store, the fashion store, right? Like that is effectively what the AI can turn into in the right context. I think that's like the really elegant difference if you can engage people, let them engage how they want to engage, and then find the right moments to say, oh, Cheryl is clearly potentially interested in applying to be a student here or for her child to be a student here. That intent is obvious in the conversation. Let's ask them if they want us to follow up with more information. Maybe somebody comes to a college's website and they say, what time is the week 3 football game? And you can say, oh, the week 3 football game's at 12 o'clock. I noticed you're not in the local area because maybe you can look at the IP address and have a general frame for where they are. Are you coming in from out of town to watch the game? Oh, yes, I am. Oh, interesting. Now, the AI also knows that that's like parents' weekend. So they can assume, are you a parent of a student? Yes, I am. Great. Well, just so you know, we have a lot of special events we're organizing for Parents Weekend. Do you want us to send you an email when those are announced? Yeah, but here's my email. So it can be really thoughtful and really contextual to who the user is, what they're interested in. And if you think about the way you tend to communicate today, like if you get emails from any business, college, brand, retail, airline, whatever it might be, typically the bottom says do not reply, right? At the
Right.
bottom of the automated email says do not reply to me.
Or you hit
That's
reply and the address literally is no reply.
right. And you either get a
Yeah.
bounce back or it's like, we can't help
Right.
you. Not the best experience. We think you should be able to reply. And so we imagine not that far off into the future, not only would we be able to like collect emails or phone numbers to send text messages or emails to people in a really thoughtful, contextual, relevant way, but if they then get the email and they have another question, they can just hit reply and type the email, and that same AI assistant can respond to them. So they can send the list of events and then go, oh, do I need tickets for the luncheon at 12 o'clock? And the AI can actually just write the email back and be like, yeah, here's the link for tickets. And so you can just deliver a much more connected experience as if in the best version, you had this human assistant that knew everything about the university available 24/7 at your beck and call.
I love that idea. That is so great. And as you were talking, I was thinking about one of our clients is a large community college district with a number of campuses, and they're having what they call a Super Saturday event. And I think it might have actually been this past Saturday. We're recording this in August, but it's coming out in October. So it was for fall semester. And what an amazing thing. Like if people were clearly searching on like, how do I apply? Or when does fall semester start? Or how do I get financial aid? That would have been such a great opportunity to say to these people, hey, it looks like you're interested in coming this fall semester. Did you know we have these great events going on? Like you can talk to staff, you can visit the campus. So that is not integrated in any of the AIs that I've seen at any of our clients. So how do you get that information in there? Because is it just crawling the site or is there still a human element behind it?
There's a couple different ways that you can build what we call the knowledge base, which is the
Right.
brain of your AI, right? And so again, at a high level, we think every business, every institution, every university, every publisher will have their own AI that knows everything about their business, their data, their content, their customers.
Right.
And to train the knowledge, the brain of that AI, the first thing we make really easy is just pulling in every piece of content you've ever put online. And so we're gonna just ingest everything on your website, and that's gonna form the base. And that's really easy. It takes no effort from the publisher, the brand, the university. You just click a button and it magically happens. Now you might have information that's not on your website. Right. So what do you do there? What do you do if you have some form that isn't publicly available that somebody at your desk is emailing to people when they write in and say, how do I change my classes for the second semester? The deadline's passed and there's this exception paperwork. You can add all that types of external data to any knowledge base and then use that so that there's awareness of it from the AI. And then you can also supplement sort of popular common questions manually as well. And so one of the things that we'll see is we work with a lot of media companies. They'll get a ton of questions, right? They have all this scale. They reach hundreds of millions, billions of people. And we'll actually look at some of the data and go, like 8% of people were all curious about this one thing. And you've never written a story about this, or you didn't have a story about this specific part that they were interested in. Maybe that's an opportunity to produce another piece of content. And so you can build this feedback loop where you're really, as an organization, able to get smarter and smarter and better serve your customers because you can learn what they really care about by what they talk to you about. You can identify gaps in your knowledge base, so gaps in the information you have available to fill in. And then over time, that experience can also just become much more personalized for the user. So it can remember, okay, this was Cheryl. She came here on the third week of the fall semester for Parents Weekend. Her student's a sophomore. Her student's majoring in this. And you can hold on to that. So when you come back the next time and you're like, how do I change this class for my student? You're going to know, well, I remember who the student is. You can actually just respond and be like, are you trying to get them out of chemistry? Right. And you can just really deliver an experience that to the end user feels as if though they're talking to a person, even though they know they aren't. And so there's a lot of opportunities around it. And those are just a couple of them.
So I'm going to take a quick break so we can hear about our sponsor. But when we come back, I want to talk to you more about this concept of building the AI brain. I haven't heard it put that way, and I have a lot of questions about that. You were talking about two things that I thought were so interesting. A was the AI brain, and the other one was this idea of a feedback loop, which I love. But before we talk about the feedback loop, this idea of building an AI brain, I mean, I think we've always thought, at least I have, of AI as this like computer or robot. Not that we are actually building like interconnectivity. Like a brain is not just like a pile of mush. It's like stuff like moving around and moving around. So we were giving examples about like inviting somebody, like noticing through their interaction with AI that they're interested in being a student, and now we're going to invite them to an event. Does the AI make that connection? Like, does it say, oh, I saw on the event calendar that there's this event on Saturday? Or does like a human still have to tell the AI to do that? Like how smart are your chatbots? Like how deep can they go in these connections?
Yeah, it's a great question. So they're quite smart. They're getting smarter every day. So some capabilities on this front that already exist are we're going to remember who you are and what you talked about. We're going to use that to inform how the chatbot behaves going forward. And so that level of sort of personalization and continuous improvement is something we already do. One of the other things we'll do is we'll actually run these, we think of them as like infinite optimizations. So these real-time 24/7 dynamic tests. So let's say that your college has 10,000 people who come to the website every day or every month. We will test 24/7, 365 different suggested prompts or questions they can talk to the AI about. We might also start the conversations by asking them a question. So maybe you want to learn something. Hey, are you excited for this? Are you a prospective student? What's your favorite class? Maybe you want to collect some insight on your audience for some purpose. We'll also run questions to the user dynamically all the time. And what we're doing is we're looking at, well, what questions are users asking the most and what are they answering the most? And then we'll take that signal and we'll go, okay, this looks like a meaningful cohort of people really care to talk about this, or they really need to understand this one problem. And then we'll recommend that out to a broader audience. And so you're delivering a better experience to the majority just by always measuring what people are interacting with you about. The other thing we can do is proactive recommendations in general. So maybe you're navigating a site and you've injected a little experience where we're going to pre-populate an FAQ based on knowing where you're at in your journey. So, okay, this person is on a page about tuition costs. They've been to the website twice in the last 30 days. they've never applied, they keep searching for things around the idea of FAFSA or student aid of some form, depending on the state they're in. Maybe we want to proactively have the chatbot be like, how important is qualifying for student aid for your decision to apply? And the person go, completely. It's the only thing that matters. And then maybe that, to come back to the previous point, is an opportunity to go, well, do you want us to email you with specific programs available based on your student? And you can go, yeah, that'd be great. And then go, well, tell me about your student. Where is she based? What are her grades? And you could maybe tailor the follow-up communication for them. Now, that last part's a little bit of a sophisticated process. And the point where the human comes into this, to part of your question, is getting the right data into the knowledge base, into the brain, right? So if you just create a chatbot that's called College Chatbot 101 and it has no access to any information, it can't do anything. If you let it scrape all of the content on the specific college's website, well, it's going to know a lot. It's going to work a lot better than that search engine works because it's using modern technology and better understanding the semantic breakdown of the text within the content, all these little details. And then if you go to step 3 and you start layering in user behavior and user data and holding on to that and having some sense of memory of what you've talked to somebody about, it's even better. And then again, you go and you just keep moving sort of down the rabbit hole of all the ways that you can enable the AI to be smarter as really an extension of your brand to deliver the best student experience, parent experience, customer experience possible.
I just absolutely love this idea of the AI having a two-way conversation, because we first talked and we talked about your company, I was like, how is this different than every other chat? Like but now that I've talked to you, I just see so many possibilities, like how great to ask questions that people haven't even thought of to ask themselves, because maybe it knows that follow-up questions from like 10,000 previous users have been this, but now this person hasn't asked that question, so it's going to offer it. So now it's becoming helpful. It's
Yeah.
guiding a student rather than just me coming and trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah, and I think if you want to, look at the business impact of that type of experience, like it's really easy to imagine. Not only does it help the user ask the right question, but it also learns, okay, not only were these most popular follow-up questions, but of the 6, these 3 had a much higher conversion rate to getting an email, right? And then this particular question then had the best open rate on the emails.
Yeah.
So you can also start layering data over time to really get clever to understand that, oh, there's a knowledge gap. When the parent or the student doesn't know the answer to this question, they hesitate to take the next step. So if we can proactively recommend that and then give them the right answer, now they feel more comfortable moving forward. And so again, one way to think about this is like if you had a human who knew literally everything about your university and was available all the time, how much better could they make every single person's experience? I think that's kind of like this general North Star that's like actually a good framework or proxy for what your AI should be able to do over time. And then it's like, all right, well, obviously, Suzanne is not available to talk to 10,000 people at a time and to do all these things. But man, if we could replicate Suzanne so everybody could have the Suzanne experience where Suzanne is the stand-in for an incredible, administrative executive, maybe at a university, that's really where we're going with it. And the fun thing is like none of this was really possible up until recently. And so I think everybody that has a big audience or a lot of information and content that their audience cares about, right? And there's plenty of that, when it comes to colleges and universities, you're in a really unique position to deliver an experience that's really differentiated. And I especially think if you're an institution that's maybe leaning into technology, leaning into education around technology or AI, and that's something that's important for you as a brand, then having your own experience is also a great way to demonstrate like we're forward leaning. If you're going to come be a part of, our institution, we're going to educate you, get you ready for the world. We're showing you that we're also a practitioner, right? We have our own AI, we're deploying it. You can see that we're eating our own dog food to the extent that that maps to the vision or the strategy or the thinking of any given education institution or business in general.
Well, I think what's really important with what you said there is so many colleges have brought in their chatbots in order to solve like a personnel problem. So they're looking at it from an institutional perspective. We don't have enough. What was the name? My switchboard operator in my college was Susan. We don't have enough Susans. We get
Sure.
8,000 calls a day. I don't have enough Susans. Let's stick this chatbot on, and then maybe people won't call Susan all the time. But really, you need to be thinking about the student experience. how can this piece of technology enhance a student's experience, not solve our own institutional problem? It's great if it can solve our institutional problem, of course. Like your CFO is going to love that, right? Your human resources is going to like it. But really, it's a tool to help a student find what they need and to enhance their experience with your institution. So I think that's a really important thing that colleges need to keep in mind when they start integrating technology. It really
Yeah.
comes down to your customer and your student and supporting them in every way you can.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that always actually comes back around, right? Like if you're obsessed with your customer experience, that's better for business. It ends up solving people do call Suzanne less or Susan less,
Yeah.
right? Like when they know they can just text this AI and get every answer they need, well, they don't have to call her. And so it works both ways. But to your point, like I think the right North Star for any business
Yeah.
is who is our customer? What do they care about? And how do we give them the best experience possible? And then everything else sort of takes care of itself. And not to be trite about it, but that compared to the inverse, like it's really obvious which one is better in the long term.
Yeah. And the colleges I've seen that are the most successful are those ones that are obsessed with their student experience.
Yeah.
From the minute that they visit their website to post graduation, and they want to create the best experience possible.
Well, and think of how important the testimonial is when you're picking a college,
Yeah.
right? Like, how does a student pick a college? Maybe they watch a bunch of YouTube videos and TikToks and stuff. That is, in a way, testimonials and referrals and word of mouth in the modern day. But one of the huge factors is who from their hometown
Yeah.
went there. And when they go, did you like going there? Says, yeah, it was great. And there's a lot of things outside of your control as the university or the college in how that's going to go, right? Social dynamics and all these things. But there's a lot that's in your control.
Yeah.
And anything you can do to enlighten or, excuse me, enhance the experience that any given student has, there is that trickle down, that halo effect that obviously happens where somebody goes, what was it like going to the school? And they go, it was great. The professors were awesome. The class sizes were good. And whenever I had a problem, you can actually send a text message and they get it fixed right away. It feels incredible. Like all of those little things add up. Whereas if you're like, well, I was trying to go to the website and I couldn't change my class in time, and there was a deadline and the website crashed and it didn't work, and I was trying to search for what to do, but there was no answer, and I tried to call, but they weren't working at those hours. So I got stuck in Chinese and I failed Chinese and I got set back a semester. I hate the school. Like that's a crazy example, but that probably happens.
Oh, it
And the
happens a
only
lot.
and why does it happen? It happens because somebody couldn't find the information that they needed to find at the right
Yeah.
moment in time. So there's a real impact to delivering this kind of always available, really intelligent experience.
And it's not a hard problem to solve,
Right.
right? I mean, you can solve it. You can solve it with your company.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a great. I was worried about our conversation being boring, but it's been anything but boring. I am like full of ideas. I've written like 2 pages of ideas as we talked. And I know that there's going to be some of our listeners that are interested in learning more about your business and company. So how can they find you? How can they search for you?
Yeah. You can go to our website, direct.ai. Direct is DIREQT. So DIREQT.ai. You can reach out to us there. You can find me on LinkedIn, Nick Martin. You can send me an email. I'm happy to chat anytime.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Nick, so much. This has been such a great conversation. And Nick's got like a Rolodex of like every Fortune 500 company on his website. And maybe someday we'll see some community colleges and four-year universities rolling through there as well.
We'd love to talk to him. Thanks for having me, Cheryl. This was really
All
fun.
right. Thank you.